Because a lot of people, we talk about dreaming big today, and I feel like a lot of people have these reasons. They think they're not quite ready to dream big
Yes.
yet. And maybe they think they don't have the right support around them, or they don't have the right setup on their computer, or they don't have the right team they've hired, or they don't, all these things. And I think part of you showing and me showing, hopefully both of us, all the real stuff, it's like, oh, you don't always need to have all that stuff together to start or to dream big and to start having that vision. That's a big vision for where you're going while enjoying the moment. Every single person listening right now, it is so easy for us to see our setbacks and our hard times and our things where we feel like we're not enough, or we didn't go to the right, job, or we don't come from the right family, or we don't come from the right zip code, or any of those things. It's so easy, like, to think that, okay, so here's what I'm destined to do. And again, it's wild, the power of, because I believe everyone has a calling. I believe everyone has more than one purpose in their life. And I feel like the things we go through, and by the way, let me just be real honest with you. You want me to be really honest? I didn't even connect the dots until just now with you about the diet shakes. I've never shared the stories I share in this book. I've like 95% of them I've never shared with anyone ever, right? My family's going to be like, you were drinking diet shakes in the bathroom in school, right? So this is like a lot of it feels so vulnerable. But until you just said this right now, Tom, I didn't even put the dots together of that. When I was sitting there drinking diet shakes in the bathroom, it's because I didn't feel like I was enough. And I felt like, oh, if I can just be this size, I'll be happy, or I'll be loved, right? Those are the things that we don't even realize we're thinking in those moments. But those things we go through, whatever those hard times are in different forms, right? It's like, oh, wow, they actually, if we do pay attention, they can become our message, our mission, our superpower, right? But I'm putting two and two together live with you right now. And I do a lot of this in the book, but never on that one moment. And I just want to share it in case someone else out there needs to hear this right now, that if we really pay attention to everything we've gone through, and it sets us up for what we're called to do. Even when we think it's stuff we're embarrassed about, or want to hide, or we're ashamed of, or we're ashamed that something happened in our family, or that we made a big mistake in our lives, or had a big misjudgment. Those things can truly, if we pay attention to them, not only help us refine our intuition, but literally turn into our superpower, right? And when I think about the journey, because the beauty industry is crowded, there's a million brands. And when I entered that space, it was impossible to get department store floor space because it was dominated by all the big companies. And, it's like, sometimes we have an idea or a dream, and it's very easy just for that simple fact of saying, oh, it's been done before. There's a million other people doing it before. And hearing you talk live now too, one of the things I'm reminded of is every single person in your whole audience, in the world, frankly, nobody can do it the way you're going to do it if you live your truth. And when I think about the decisions along the way of when all the department stores told me no, when everyone said you're not the right fit, you're not this, you're not that, I'm also realizing live with you right now that you're right. In the bathroom, I've never had this conversation with anyone, by the way. In the bathroom, drinking those diet shakes, I understood at a deep level of pain, the idea of not enoughness. I also understood the power of community, of understanding and seeing the light in other women. In that case, it was girls. We were young, seeing the light and the beauty in other girls when they're not seeing it themselves, but still not seeing it in myself, and having that understanding, right? And that through line then, all the way through the investor telling me, women, I don't believe women will buy makeup for someone who looks like you, your body and your weight. It's like going all the way through that. By that point, when he told me that, I had a lot more life experience. I made a lot more mistakes, and I could actually hear my own gut tell me he's wrong. And I made the decision to trust myself, right? So it would be a lot longer before we finally got a shot on QVC, and a lot more no's after that investor still. And it's hard in life when nothing around us tells us we're right. It's hard to then listen to that gut and keep going. But for me, it's everything. It's everything. And to use your wife Lisa's example, I think we all have it, but maybe it's a superpower to actually learn to hear it and to trust it and to trust ourselves. For me, it's life's greatest journey. For me, it's how we all step into the person we're born to be versus talk ourselves out of ever becoming that person.
As you've built all these huge things throughout your career, how did you stay focused, especially in an industry, you were in the beauty industry. I don't know if that's the proper way to describe it. But how did you stay focused? Because clearly, as you get more successful, more people want to put things on your plate, more distractions come available, then social media comes out. And it's like, how are you, what are your practices for staying focused? I think people would be really fascinated by that.
Yeah. Today I was thinking about this before we hopped on, like today I'm really having to implement tools on focus. And, maybe a lot of people live with us right now can relate to this, but even though I have a lot of distractions going on, like today, my biggest distraction, honestly, has been my own head, myself, right? How many times do we get in the way of ourself? And here's what I've been really practicing today, Brendan, already today, but then also over the years as well, is focusing on what I'm saying to myself and what I'm acknowledging. I started my morning off feeling super overwhelmed, literally almost in tears. And
I don't believe it. I don't believe it. What?
I did.
You're never overwhelmed.
I caught myself. No, it's like these things we say to ourselves, once we acknowledge them, I feel like we make them real, and we need to check ourselves. I had to check myself this morning when it comes to focus, because for a while I was focusing on I'm so overwhelmed and I'm so tired, right? Those are the things I was saying to myself. I'm like, oh, and all that did was perpetuate those feelings. And, and I was like, yeah, but, and I told myself, oh, but I'm so grateful. And this is a once in a lifetime week and all those things. I said that to myself, but I realized my real focus, and what I even was saying to Sarah this morning, my focus was, I'm tired. I'm so overwhelmed. We have 12 shows today. And I'm like, wait a minute. I was deliberately perpetuating not bringing the joy.
Right.
And I had to check myself.
Good distinction. That's a huge distinction.
Yeah. Well, and I realized my focus is just it's the things I don't want, the things I'm not even wanting to happen are getting bigger today. All because of my own head, not because of all the distractions around me, not because of any of that, right? And so it's all what I was choosing to focus on and actually say out loud in the case of today.
Your self-talk becomes your self-concept, and your self-talk becomes your situation.
Yes.
And so if it's like, that's why I'm always telling people, the thing to listen for in your voice and in your tone is always listen to, what are you bemoaning?
Yeah.
Right? What are you bemoaning? Oh, I got to do this commute. Oh, I got to do this email. Oh, I got to do this legal thing. And the more of those, I have to do this, I don't want to do that, that focus, that self-talk makes you in ways build a mental prison of in some ways victimhood, that, I am, these things, I have to do these things. When, as you mentioned earlier, and I just know Jamie's on purpose right now. She's on, for those who saw her last Monday or who read the book, Believe It, she's in a flow. She's in a flow of service right now. And in that flow, one easy way we can all poison our flow, our focus, is when we start going, oh, and I have to do all these things. It's like, no, these things are all part of it. Those things all add to the whole. And so listen to your own tonality with yourself. Is like, when you bemoan it, beware. That's what I always say to myself. Oh, I'm bemoaning. Oh, beware, Brendan. You're gonna close off the flow. You're gonna close off your heart. You're gonna close off your ability to serve at higher levels of energy and frequency that people need. The more that you hate the process, the more the process goes, well, then I ain't gonna even know more progress.
Yeah. Yeah. And even just focusing on the tough parts of the process, right? Like, or like this morning, really, it was, I'm so tired. Like I started focusing on that and I feel like it literally magnified and took over my emotions, took over everything. And I had to check myself. Like I had to, like I really did in terms of even just what I focus on. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, it might be true that I'm tired, but there's so many other things too. And I don't want to become more tired. And I think like when I caught myself focusing on that and feeling like, oh, and so, I decided I had to be super intentional this morning about, oh, no, I'm going to focus on I'm going to catch myself and say, um, if I do share those, if I do think those things, they're just going to perpetuate. You know what I mean? And I had to intentionally shift my focus. And I also was honestly, so sometimes so I'm in a hotel room, right? And I learned this lesson the hard way in life, that life's not meant to do alone. And so I intentionally hopped online this morning and started connecting and reading messages, crying my eyes out. Brendan, there is a single mom who started a book club with Believe It, and she did a whole post about it. And then she said, and if you're a single mom and want to join my book club and you can't afford to get your copy, I bought 2 extras and I'll send them to you. And I'm just sitting there sobbing, right? Like, so then I took all my author copies from the room next door. I had 10 author copies here that the publisher sent me, and I signed them all and like DM'd her. I'm like, where can I send these to you at? Give these.
That's awesome.
They can't afford to get a book. And it's like, I just shifted my focus this morning away from myself and,
Yes.
oh, I'm tired, because I don't want to magnify that. But we have to be intentional about this, right? Because it would have been way easier to just sit there and be like, oh, I'm tired. But it's like, oh, okay, I acknowledge that's what I'm focused on. I'm watching myself grow in my woe, like all the negative stuff I don't want to feel, because that's what I'm focused on. Let me shift my focus. Let me connect. Let me give. And let me do something bigger than myself, right? And listen, sometimes that can be, let me walk down the street and wave hi to somebody and tell them I see them. It could be that simple, right? Let me text someone who maybe feels alone. It could be that simple. Today for me, it came in the form of, oh wow, this person's story is so amazing, what she's doing. How can I serve her? And I had 10 author copies here from the publisher. So I literally signed them and literally am mailing them to her saying, can you give these to any single mom who can't afford to grab the book? And it snapped me out of the crap I was focused on for a hot minute. And like,
I love it.
Right? Refocus on the things I want to magnify, which is the feeling of goodness, of service, of aliveness, of feeling the day, right? Those kind of things. So
yeah. I love that. She used connection. Right. So she started with connection, like, oh, let me look outside myself. Let me see who I can serve here. Let me see, even if she went to DMing friends, or she went to, sending audios or videos to people. Many of you guys know we always teach that in growth days, like, hey, send 5 encouraging voice texts or videos every day to friends or family or your customers, your teams, every day. It just gets you out of your head and into that. And then the second thing is generosity. Like, oh, I'm going to send these people a free book. I'm going to sign this thing. I'm going to help these people in this way. It's like, it shifts you. Like, the higher levels of frequency in your life are always going to come from service. They're always going to come from that. Like,
so
that
true,
generosity. Yeah. It's like you want to turn on. Like, we do this. Hey, I can promise you guys, sometimes we do this morning show and we're like setting everything up, and we're talking through things as we're setting things up, and we're getting ready. And it's like, we're not like enthusiastic or turned on yet, if you will. And then we hit go, and now we go, oh, we can add some value here. Oh, this is gonna be fun. And I feel like when you put yourself in play where you can be generous or add value, it turns on your spirit. We hear it all the time from you guys in Growth Day. Our Growth Day members, like, wow, I finished that live session, I'm fired up. I finished that thing, I did my goals. I finished this, and it's just beautiful to see. And I just feel like we all have to remind ourselves that Don't get stuck in your own thing. However, I will have to say responsibly, or people are going to give me a hard time. And that is this. Also listen to that truth.
Yeah.
When your body is saying, I am overwhelmed, I am tired.
Yeah.
Don't just run it over with positive thinking. Also go, I need to make an action plan.
Yeah.
To stop taking on so much that I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And to stop taking on so much that's compromising my sleep. Or I need to get support. Or I need to it's like, hear it, acknowledge it, adjust an action plan for it, and then shift into the service. But I think it's important, don't run over that, because that is a signal from your body going, oh my God. Jamie, what got you into personal development? Jamie, I would love to ask that today. Like, to have vision for your life, you have to first want to improve it.
Yeah. I've always loved it. I mean, I remember, Brendan, you'll remember this, but decades ago, seeing even infomercials about it, right? And seeing, personal development tapes. I've always loved it. Growing up, I mean, I was the only one I know of in my whole family, and I have like 5 families through divorce and adoption and all kinds of stuff. I would just read quote books and literally geek out in it. I would, in high school, keep journals filled with my favorite quotes and, watch speeches from some of the most incredible speakers, Dr. Martin Luther King. I remember I'm such a dork. I remember going to the high school library because you could check out videos, and I would check out some of the great speeches and watch them. So I remember sitting in the school library watching Dr. Martin Luther King speak. I remember sitting, you know what I mean? I've always just loved it. And I think it's because, and I think probably everyone part of the Growth Day community maybe shares this, where we kind of have that little inkling inside of us that we have something, that special we want to give or create or serve or impact. And I've always kind of had that feeling deep down inside, even from the time I was a little girl, long before I understood it. And I remember, and this is bold. Do
you think that's like the striving spirit? I want to hear your bold thing, but do you feel like, you said you were young. How many of you feel like it's because you're young, you have like a striving spirit, and it's just something part of you versus something interrupted life or forced you to.
Sometimes we have those ambitions or those thoughts or those, and then all of a sudden the world teaches us self-doubt. The world tells us all those things that it's easy to listen to, like you're not enough and this and that, and right. So, but I mean, I remember just from the time I was little, and there was a moment, I want to say I was 9 years old, sitting in my living room. You might remember this moment where Oprah Winfrey was being interviewed by Barbara Walters. And this moment made the news everywhere. And she said to her, I think it was 9 years old. And she said, I always knew I was destined for greatness. And I remember this moment, and the press freaked out. And all of a sudden, she got a lot of negative press for it too, because I think people weren't used to hearing, especially a woman, make such a bold claim like that. But I remember being 9 years old, sitting there in my living room, and I would switch back and forth between MTV, watching like Yo MTV Raps, which I wasn't allowed to watch, but I'd watch that, and then I'd go back and forth and watch the Oprah show every day. Yes. And I saw this interview with her and Barbara Walters, and as a 9-year-old little girl, I remember like getting it. I remember her saying that and feeling like, me too, Oprah, me. Like I remember, and her example helped me believe it was okay, because we learn, I think, so often. And, we all learn this, not just women, but it's easy to dim our own light. It's easy to, grow up and just the things take over, the bills, the kids, the responsibilities, the setbacks. And it's easy to almost lose our own vision, right? We're talking about Vision Week on Growth Day. It's easy to start losing our own vision.
The weight of life.
Yeah. And I remember that moment, Brendan, as a 9-year-old little girl, just hearing Oprah say that in a way sparked a vision in me. And I think I love that we have these conversations. I hope Growth Day Morning Show sparks everyone else's own vision.
Well, talk about vision on this. I'm gonna brag on you for a minute, because it's like, here's a 9-year-old girl who sees Oprah and gets this idea, oh, maybe greatness is okay for me too. And then, builds a $1 billion company. I'm not talking about Oprah, I'm talking about Jamie here with you guys. Then Jamie ends up being like neighbors with Oprah, more or less. And it's like, wow, she built into this vision she had in so many different ways. And both her and I have been able to give back to so many of our mentors and give our platforms to mentors. And that really is magical that you have these interactions with people who inspire you, then later get to work with them. I got to go on a tour with Wayne Dyer. I got to, have all the big names on my stages now. And I used to buy their tape. I love what you said. I used to buy their tapes. I used to go to the library, public library. Y'all know what a public library is? I go to the public library, I'd get them for free. I love what you said too. You had quote books. I read quote books like they were fiction novels. I used to have a collection of over 150 quote books that I'd bought and read like a book. And I'd just write them. And then I'd say, oh, what do I have to say about this? And that's what started me writing quotes. Wow. I was like, oh, I like this quote about ambition. What would I say about ambition? I like this quote about confidence. What would I say about confidence? And I started posting my quotes on Facebook, and then it became, the thing. But it was all part of the interactions you had of inspirational people, inspirational speeches that you saw young. I had the same thing, young. I saw role models. I listened to inspiring speeches. I read quote books young. So parents out there, get your kids seeing some personal development, listening to some personal development, getting excited about education and learning, not just Zoom, but like real personal development, personal growth in psychology. And, who knows how they'll turn out.
You want to know what's some parents out there might relate to this. I'm a new parent. So I have a 2-year-old and an 8-month-old. And I have not seen Sesame Street in decades. And now I see Sesame Street. I see cartoons. I see all the stuff. Out of everything I've seen, just to call this out, I have to give Sesame Street props.
Yes.
They weave in personal development. They weave in personal growth into these lessons on believing in yourself, on inclusion, on, trying every time you get knocked down. I'm like, I have a whole new, now as an adult woman who's 43 years old, I have a whole new appreciation for how brilliant Sesame Street is. And I'm just like,
yes.
Yeah, I'm blown away. But I agree with you, because because my daughter will, say everything, and oh, she loves Elmo, but she'll talk about all the different cartoons. But after watching a lot of them now, I'm like, oh, it's Sesame Street that I try to make sure she sees over and over, because those lessons, right, on just like, all those things, believing in yourself.
It's just like, it's two-sided. They're really good at Sesame Street's good at character education and teaching kids social acuity. Mm-hmm. Like, how do you read the feelings of this, inanimate object, right? How do you read feelings is what Sesame has been always about, and teaching, kids about honesty and integrity and, caring for yourself. They're the bomb.
So good.
If you all love Sesame Street, I want to hear favorite characters for sure. By the way, we're live every day, 7:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Instagram and Facebook. So when I look off camera, if you're on Instagram, it's because I'm looking at Facebook, and Facebook vice versa. But I'm seeing people literally from all around the world who are commenting about, these topics we're talking about. And I bring that up because y'all, what we're trying to do with this Growth Day morning show and with Growth Day, my company, is we are trying to start this encouraging conversation in your head, but also let you know there's personal development fans and fanatics and dorks like us all around the world who checked out books, who listened to CDs and tapes, who are striving. So if you're the striver in your family and they make you feel weird about it, no apologies, keep striving. If you're the person who's into reading the books and listening to the podcasts and doing your workout, but everybody else around you is just the complainer and not taking action and, no self-responsibility, that shouldn't minimize your light. Mm-hmm. You don't need other people's understanding, approval, or even participation to keep chasing the vision you have for your life. Like, one great, untold advantage I've had in my life, Jamie, is I don't expect people to support me. I grew up in a place where people beat me. I grew up in a place where people minimized us. I grew up in a place that was economically depressed. I grew up with very little expectations of people around me at all. And so that gave me this independent, I'm going to make my own way. And I'm going to do it either way. And I think that in one way that was good because it made me self-reliant. In another way, I wish I had asked for help earlier in my, I'd say early 20s specifically. So it's like personal development. We always talk about self-awareness, self-responsibility, self-reliance, but a huge part of personal development is your environment, your community. And so everybody here who joins this Growth Day morning show every day, thank you. We love that you're weird like us. We love that you can chat down below and share about what you learned on Sesame Street or what book you read this year. You are geeking out about getting excited about for today too. Even if you have like lots of obligations and hardship the rest of this day, we start with reflection about what's important in life, reverence for life. We start with the joy Jamie brings to this world. Just look at her smile. You're like, every time I see her in the morning, I go, I'm ready. Let's go. Let's have a great day.
One of the things you always share that's so inspiring to everyone is, show up, but also no matter how small you start something that matters. Yeah. And, the truth is when we started this morning show, I think it was the day of, I remember, or the day before, I remember saying to you, Brendan, maybe, I don't even know if we'll like it. It may not even be fun. I don't even know how it'll go. We've never done this. Right. And wow, 25 shows later, the most incredible human beings on the planet are in this community right now, live, sharing this experience with us on Facebook and Instagram. And I'm just so grateful and excited about how it's just become this boost of joy and inspiration, and how all together as a community, we're really like setting our day up for success. We're setting our day up with inspiration and growth and gratitude and frameworks and nonsense sometimes, but really great content other times. And I'm just really, really grateful. I couldn't have imagined it being so fun. And also, I think that when things are fun, they're sometimes easy. You know what I mean? And it's just because of the community. Yeah. And by the way, tag somebody, anybody who you think, could use a boost of inspiration in their life and joy and belief and confidence and growth, and just maybe needs this in their life. Maybe they're, having a hard time, which who isn't this past year, right? So tag your friends or anyone that you think would love to be part of this with you and with us every morning, and just join us in the Growth Day Morning Show. It's free, it's live, Monday through Friday, 7:30 in the morning Pacific time.
25 shows. I can't even.
Isn't that wild?
That feels like we just started. I mean, I don't know. Does anyone feel like New Year's was 7 years ago? Sometimes I'm like, anyone? I mean, was New Year's a short while ago or a long while ago? I would love to see comments. Was New Year's a short time ago or a long time ago? I would love to gauge like how people are experiencing the year right now, because in some ways, Jamie and I are in this group. I have this group of we're in Growth Day, obviously, and we're Growth Day teachers and coaches, and we have this group of our friends that we are always together with. And I got this notification on my phone where it shows you like all these photos of a year ago. And a year ago, we were, we just finished a big event. Jamie spoke at it, I think, and then we did. We had our mastermind. That's what it was. And anyway, I saw these pictures and I looked at them. That feels so long ago. But then at the same time, when I think of all the things that happened in the last year, it's also like a short. I don't know. It's such a weird time bender right now. I don't know if anyone experiences that, but it's been super strange.
I think just one call out about that, and this is again going back to focus and who needs you on your A game. I think for you, having such a big vision of Growth Day and building that, like when we are so focused on the bigger mission, on something bigger than ourselves, on serving, I think that's when everything just flows and flies and all the things. And I was talking to Paulo about this, that on the topic of focus, that with It Cosmetics, when we did finally start building, finally got over 1,000 employees. One of the things is we were laser focused on what is that mission and what is our authentic mission, right? And not getting distracted by what someone else is doing or what's hot over here or what's the buzzword of the moment, right?
Yeah.
Right now in this day and age, so many people are talking about pivoting because we are coming out of a hard year and people are having to pivot and are having to do things in their businesses online, et cetera, et cetera. But I think when you do pivot or when you consider pivoting, I think it is so important that you remember, your bigger mission and that you keep that through line of authenticity to it.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
focus and discipline on what that authentic through line is for you. Right now, people are
Yes.
so tempted to pivot to all kinds of stuff that it's a distraction. And I remember inside my company at Cosmetics, when I finally started hiring people from the beauty industry, which I wasn't from, I had no beauty experience. I was finally able to hire different experts as we grew and grew and grew to over 1,000 employees. And one of the things that would happen all the time is they would bring things to me that was, data-driven research on what products are hot right now or what competitors doing what. And listen,
Right.
I appreciated it. But what I would say over and over and over, Brendan, to the point where I think like my everyone could repeat this in my company probably, and I'll say it forever. I still say it to them, and I don't run the business anymore. I still say it to them when I see them launch, do something. I'm like, oh, I always say like our greatest threat to our business isn't what our competition's doing. It's not our competition. Our greatest threat to our business is if we ever get distracted by what
Yes.
our competition is doing and actually
Yes.
get tempted to dilute our own secret sauce. And I
Yeah.
would say that over and over and over. And I believe that's how we were able to
So
build
true.
something that mattered. I believe it was how we were able to build something that lasted. I believe it was how we were able to build something that was different from all the other brands, which then made it valuable, which then made it a huge acquisition target for a lot of other people. So,
That
I
focus, so
just
key.
calling that out today when it comes to Focus Week on Growth Day.
Well, a lot of people, I think when you add the word, when we say focus and we say and discipline, a big part of that and discipline part is honoring the difficulties and the hardships without quitting or pivoting. People don't realize, forgive the sports metaphor, but maybe it helps for some people is, Tom Brady wins the Super Bowl in 2001, 2002, 2003. I might have my dates a little off, forgive me, but he wins 3 in a row, basically. Then he goes into 10 years. They don't win. A decade does not win. A decade gets older. A decade, teams change. A decade, everyone gets younger. A decade, but he keeps going, wins again. Everyone has that winter of time when there's all the reasons to pivot and quit because it's hard. Look at Churchill, right? They call it his wilderness years. So many years where he's out, he's on the out. They don't listen to him, they don't respect him. It's like, and then he goes on to save the world in World War II, right? Or look at like any modern sports figure or any great leader. There were times when you weren't number one, when you were down, when you felt like you were at the beginning of the mountain and you're watching everybody go by. And it's just like, no, sometimes that slow and steady wins the race. We all know that. I think it's true. In my industry, the number of people who I've seen come on, huge, huge video views, or all of a sudden they've got 1 million on YouTube, or they've got, all these emails, or that event, or that huge book, or the podcast blows up, right? And I'll see that. And a part of me will go, I should do what they're doing because look, they just skate by me on how many views they got or subscribers or whatever. And I'm like, I just do the Brendan show. Like literally, I do my thing, the way that I enjoy it, the way that I feel is my unique contribution to the world. I'm going to stay on that. And you know what? Over a period of 10 years, I don't have a peer in a decade long experience, right? Like we, at least that I'm aware of, that over a decade had that many, experiences, video views, events, coaching, clients, like the deep impact online for personal development. In terms of who was actually doing it too, like literally the creator. Yeah. Like I run it, I build, I'm still video, you heard me, I'm still video editing, right? Like 20 years in. So yeah. I think it's important, and I don't say that to be braggadocious, I go, I'm actually slow and steady. I just focus, I show up, I do my thing, and I don't worry about everybody else with all the gimmicks and all the things. And also when people pass me and they have those spikes, I'm like, that's awesome. I wonder where they're going to be at in 10 years, because I'm willing, no comparison to Tom Brady because I have no sports game whatsoever, but I'm willing to have the 10 years of when it's just the, grinding, working through, but staying disciplined. One thing that people don't know is part of focus and discipline is you're still in the game. Like I love Brady's example of, most people, football is only 5-6 months, right? And so his off season isn't entirely different in his routines as his on season, because he's always in training. You're always in training. You're always in motion. So just stay in the game a little bit longer. Many of you, you're so close to having the breakthrough in your business or in your sales, in your marriage or in your health, in your finance. Just because it's hard doesn't mean you should quit.
Yeah, the breakthrough or the comeback. The breakthrough or the comeback, right? I think both. And that can be in your business. As I always share, it was like 3 years of hearing no's. And that was hard to go, okay, but you know what? That yes is coming. I still believe, every time I would check in with my gut, it felt like I was supposed to stay on the right track. But it's hard when we're in that season where it's not happening in our business, right? It's hard to keep going. But sometimes
But hard is not, we have to teach ourselves, hard is not rare.
Right.
The path is hard.
And I think, and listen, I'm so big on this because we hear from so many people. Okay, I hope I don't say this the wrong way. There are so many people. There are so many people in the personal growth space who just go, don't give up, don't give up. And they've never actually built anything themselves. They're really good at talking about it.
Yes.
But I don't believe the victory is not giving up. I believe the victory is checking in with your knowing and going, is this the dream I'm supposed to keep going after?
Yes.
When I thought I was in my dream job, I always wanted to host a talk show. My whole life growing up, I watched Oprah, and I was eventually in my dream job. And I had this knowing I was supposed to launch a cosmetics, and I knew nothing about it. And I had this big realization that sometimes knowing when to let go of a dream is as important as knowing when to go after one.
Absolutely.
And I trusted my gut. But had I kept that whole never quit, as though that's the failure, I would have actually failed because I would have stayed somewhere I wasn't supposed to be. So I don't know. Don't even get me started on this whole thing. One thing I was going to say though really fast.
Oh, no, you're right. That's so key.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. That's the entire thing. Like focus and discipline doesn't matter if you're doing it for the wrong ends or you're doing it in a way where the means make you miserable. Everyone said, what should I be focused and disciplined about? I'm like, your experience of the day.
Yeah.
Because you're not your tasks. You're not focus and discipline isn't about the outcome. It's not about the status. It's not about the external reward. It's a way of being true to yourself. And it's a way of knowing the difference between what's authentic and real to you and important to you and what is distraction or what is inauthentic.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of people willingly, with great focus and discipline, march on the inauthentic path for years and decades. That is not the right focus and discipline we're talking about. We are talking about you climbing your mountain. We are talking about you finding your inner joy and cultivating that. What is that unique thing that brings your passions and interests into alignment? That unique thing that it's like, oh, that feels right, even if it's hard.
Yeah.
That feels right, even if I have no idea how to do it most of my life.
Yeah, no, that's so good. I think that's so important to call that out. And I think when you talk about, going over a decade in this and not getting distracted or tempted to change what you're doing or how you're doing it just because someone popped up with 1 million followers here, it's whatever. It's because
First book came out 20 years ago this
20 years ago. Amazing.
So
you stay authentic.
20 years and full time since 2005 or 6.
Yeah.
So it's 14, this is 15 years.
When we stay authentic,
same day, every day. It's like on Groundhog's Day. If you were in Brennan's world, you're like, man, that guy, he just keeps going. It's so 15
same smoothie in a blender, same everything.
I'm still here. I am teaching 15 years later.
Yeah.
Right? So it's that's my thing. I love to teach.
Yeah. And just one thought, because I know we're almost out of time today, is listen, when I look back at, all the people that lasted and built a brand that lasted, because I've now had the blessing of meeting tens of thousands of entrepreneurs and going on air with them at QVC for 10 years. And the ones that lasted, which is very few, the ones that built something that lasted and mattered, are literally not the smartest, not even the hardest working, not the anything. It's the ones that showed up authentically on air and the same they were in the green room, for better or worse, right? And I talk about that a lot because I think that's the way to not burn out. is to
Yeah.
just freaking show up authentically. You're not then worried about having to conform or this or that, or get distracted by who has this or who. It's like when I see you talk about the last 20 years, right? And talk about how you've like it's so of course it's consistent and focus and discipline, but it's also just authentic to you. Like you haven't done anything similar to what anyone else is doing in the personal growth space ever. It's like you just keep, it's like, and I think that's the beauty. And I think, you know, when we embrace that lesson and we realize like, oh, if I just fully show up with my own thing, like in my example, it didn't take off for at least 3 years, right? So I could have thought, oh, this is so slow. I have no money. Maybe my gut is wrong. Maybe I need to change who I am or what my mission is.
Yeah.
But the biggest victory isn't the outcome, right? It's sticking true to your own authentic, you know, your own authentic mission. And I believe that's, you know, one of the biggest reasons we were able to build a company that lasted, that mattered, that made a difference in that space, and it continues to every day. And I think that's so powerful about what you're saying. And just to end on one note is the idea that you are the godfather of growth is now perpetuating and going everywhere, because
I know you guys.
I was in Clubhouse for only the second time ever. I still am holding my opinion on how I feel about it right now. I'm gonna not judge yet, and I'm gonna just observe and take it in. I'm not sure, but I was in there for the second time ever. Grateful to be in there and just check it out and be invited and all that stuff. But it was in there to celebrate our friend Tom's launch on
Tom
the Clubhouse,
Bilyeu.
right?
I hope you guys follow Tom Bilyeu. He's on top.
Yes.
With me too. I love
I
him.
love him. I love Lisa. I love Lisa. Sometimes she and I just leave each other audio texts, and I'm just like, my mood. And same with Jenna Kutcher. So many, oh my gosh. Okay, but anyways, in the Clubhouse, everywhere, boom, 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 everyone's talking into it. Brendon Burchard, godfather of growth. Brendon Burchard, godfather, going on and on and on and on and on. It's this thing I think started by Jay Shetty, if I remember right, taken on a whole life of its own. And I don't know if you're ever going to be able to, I mean, it's a great nickname if you're going to have one. So I
wish people would just say, maybe, you know, I led some personal development on the internet years, right? I think that's really more humbly the truth is, like, I don't think so. I was just in the personal development space from 2000, the last 20 years, I had this amazing opportunity because I was early into the technology and early into online education. And I think that was, but listen, because everyone who knows me all knows, I actually, the godfathers were Ben Franklin, Dale Carnegie, Earl Nightingale, Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, Stephen Covey, you know, Wayne Dyer, Louise Hay, you know, Deepak, Marianne, even Oprah. They were like, we were all built on them. And then Marcus Aurelius, Aristotle. We're built on those people. I just happened to show up when the internet was there and tried to teach on the internet, and that was early. That was the thing.
All right. So while all that is true, I really believe why you have this nickname isn't just because of what you do. I believe it's because of your leadership inside the personal growth space. I believe it's because
thank you.
When you see someone else that you mentioned earlier doing 1 billion views or this or that, your instinct is to go, how can I celebrate them? How can I give them even a greater voice? How can I champion them with what they're doing? And that's leadership, right? Because we all hopefully learn in this journey in life, right? One thing I always say is we're not put on this earth to compete with anyone else. I believe we're put on this earth to compete with the person we know we're born capable of becoming. And when we embrace that, it's so freeing, and you fully embrace that. That's why I believe you have the nickname, because all of these other huge thought leaders in the personal growth space, you continue to help them all with their own stuff, and no one sees that behind the scenes. You do it all behind the scenes. So then I'll just broadcast it on the morning show because that's what friends are for. But that is why I believe you have that nickname. And I want to share one thing that was life-changing for me on this journey to confidence. And, you know, I went through a season of what I thought was setbacks. I was anchoring the news. I was working as a journalist. I thought it was my dream job. I always wanted to interview other people, right? And share their stories, like since the time I was a little girl and I was in my dream job. And I started getting rosacea, which is a hereditary skin condition. it was pretty bad. I went through this big season that really affected my confidence, right? And I would get these big red bumps and it would be bright red. And sometimes, even now to this day, Brendan, when like, let's say I drink wine one night, or it's just a stressful time, or it's just a season, or the weather, and all of a sudden.
So the last 6 months basically is what we're talking about.
Basically. I'll just have these, I get really bright red. It kind of can feel like sandpaper. And I went through this season of thinking all the thoughts our inner critic thinks, right? And it really affected my confidence for a long time. And I had this realization in my life, and it really happened the first time I went on live national television and actually took my makeup off. And it's this, right? It's this idea that there are things that we are embarrassed of. And I think this is universal. There are things we're embarrassed of that we let affect our confidence. There's past mistakes we've made. There is, things that we tell ourselves are wrong with ourselves or aren't enough about ourselves. And yet when we embrace them, when we just make the decision to say, oh, this isn't what's wrong with me, this is what's right with me. And I know that's hard, but when we make that decision, when we do something afraid, it literally shrinks that fear. It shrinks the thing that we thought was really a big deal, right? When we share our story for the first time, or do the thing that's holding us back. And I'm just I literally, because I have makeup on because I have a press day for book all day today for the book launch. But I just want to show you something, okay? Because I want to challenge everyone inside the Growth Day Morning Show. This weekend, we're going into a weekend. I just want you to think about one thing that's holding you back in your own confidence and just do it. And just take that risk and just step forward, okay? And I just want to show you because something happened to me when I did it. So I have a makeup remover wipe, Brendan. This is, you probably never seen one of these. This is a little towelette. I just want to show you something, right? Because so I just have makeup on for press later today. But when I take this off, and I'll never forget the moment I did this for the first time, because I used to think I should be embarrassed or something's wrong with me or I'm not beautiful, all those things. And when I started taking my makeup off, right? Because when I created a company, it wasn't about, oh, these are products that work for, all kinds of skin. It was like, oh, here's what beauty is. It's every single one of us. And you are just as beautiful on the days you want to wear makeup as the days you don't. And something happened to me the moment I did it afraid, the moment I went on national television and just took my makeup off. And Brendan, what started happening literally is I was like, oh, like, it's not about me. B, we're all beautiful. I believe that authentically.
Yes.
I'm no longer afraid of rosacea. I'm no longer embarrassed by it. I no longer think it's ugly. And when I go into grocery stores now and I have no makeup on, right? I'll have people I don't know will be like, oh, are you sunburned or are you not feeling well? And I'm like, no, I have rosacea, it's a skin condition. And I just try to normalize it. And when I see other people, other women, with red cheeks or hyperpigmentation or all this stuff, and I see them just bravely bearing it, I smile like it's like a thing, right? And
it's a beautiful thing. It's inspiring.
Thing. And I think together we're changing the world. And I pulled up one quote I want to share with everyone this morning on the Growth Day Morning Show, because again, we're all in this together. Every one of us has something that we feel like makes us feel not enough, or we're embarrassed about, or it's hurting our confidence. And there's a famous quote. So I wrote it down right here, and it's attributed to Albert Einstein, but also a lot of other people. So I don't know the original source, but it says, everybody's a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll live its whole life believing it's stupid. And I think when we judge ourselves based on something we've defined as wrong with us, we risk spending our whole lives thinking we're wrong.
Yes.
Like when there's something that is holding us back in our own confidence and we're the ones telling ourselves we're not enough, like we spend our whole lives then thinking we're not enough. And I don't want to swear on the Growth Day Morning Show, but I will say this stuff has got to change.
Yes.
This stuff has got to change. And I want to read this quote one more time, because a lot of us are like this fish judging itself to climb a tree. Okay. Everyone is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll live its whole life believing that it's stupid. This stuff with what we believe about ourselves and the meaning we attach to the things we think are wrong with us is got to change. And when we take that, when we take that step and do it afraid, right? One person who just wrote down here, I think it was Janie wrote, I'm scared to have conversations with other people. You just start, you just do it. You just keep doing it. And once you start doing those things, you build a lot more confidence in it, and the fear shrinks. Like I was scared to death, right? Because I have it on both cheeks. I was scared to death to do this the first time and the second time and the third time. But now, but all of a sudden that fear, that self-doubt, that insecurity shrinks, and it becomes replaced by empowerment. And oh yeah, I can do these things. And oh, and
self-trust and congruence and readiness. Because I love what you're saying, because confidence, y'all, if you wait to have confidence to do something, you'll never do it.
Yeah.
Confidence is gained in momentum. So if you want more confidence, you get in momentum. You enter the fear, you enter the unknown, you enter the uncertainty, you try it. And as you survive it and do it, you realize, oh, I can handle this, which builds competence inside.
Yeah.
And because you tried it, you have self-trust. You go, oh, I went for it even though I didn't know how it's going to go. And the self-trust and the self-respect and the self-worth grows, not because you achieved something, but because you tried. Because you tried, you moved forward. The achievement was the trying, and you did it. And you also realize that most people aren't, like when you did this, I was watching the comments really closely, Jamie. First, would you all give Jamie a round of applause, because this is so inspiring? Give her some hearts, give her some claps, because this is like, but it's beautiful. It's beautiful what you just did. It's beautiful. And I'm watching the comments, and people cheer that on. People cheer real life on. We're always scared that, oh, real life, people won't like that. So let me use the filter. People love real. People love this show. They're here every day because they're gaining with us as we're gaining momentum in growth day. They're gaining momentum with us. We're feeling good. We're moving in a direction. We're building new things. We're trying new things. But if you were me and Jamie in the first 4 days of this, it was a hot mess. Yeah. We didn't know how. She's like, we're sitting there with the blue tape trying to figure out how to plug this in, how to make that go. The audio was all messed up. I didn't know I had to wear the earphony things because this mic was doing something weird on the. We had no idea what we were doing, but we're gaining confidence and steam as we go along, and we get to do that with you. Yeah. Please heed what she's sharing. I shared about that yesterday too. I want to just emphasize her fish out of water. That was yesterday's message too, was remember that. Be kind of like water. The water, as it flows, can go around any obstacle, no matter how big the obstacle is, and it doesn't try to change its nature.
Yeah.
It follows its path. It follows its path. And by following your real path, not trying to hide who you are, following your real path, I really believe people will cheer you on and support you way more than the haters. The haters are, I'll just give you the rule. Haters are 10%. If you can accept that whatever you do in your life, 10% of people are maybe going to give you some negative feedback, criticism, judgment, unfair judgment, or hate.
Yeah.
What would you do in your life? Because that's only 10%. 90% of people got your back. You could swarm the haters. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. I love that so much. It's so true. And it's beautiful too. The more you embrace the parts of yourself that you think are not enough, and literally you can switch your mindset around them and just embrace them as beautiful. Or, in my case, a lot of times I think to myself, oh, this is helping someone else. It's helping normalize skin issues, or it's helping, right? It's like when we reveal the real of who we are, it shrinks our fear, it boosts our confidence, but it also becomes about something bigger than ourselves too. And, one great example of this, anyone out there who knows Sarah Blakely, founder of Spanx, right? Sarah Blakely, founder of Spanx. She is such a I love when people just show it all, right? She's married to Jesse Itzler, who I believe he's vegan. Sarah's obsessed with Cheez-Its and French fries. And she's not even trying to act like she's not. And it's a really cool thing, because I'm just thinking of this because she's turning 50 and she just went on a trip by herself. So she has 4 kids and she's like, for a gift, I just want to go away by herself. She went away by herself and she's posting all week long from her hotel room what she's doing all alone. And I'm just a little biased because she brought my book, Believe It, with her to read the second time. She already read the book. She sent me a whole testimonial about it, saying every woman in the world needs this, every entrepreneur. And then she's now reading it a second time on her 50th birthday week. And she's posting it and sitting next to, like, she has a table of wine, French fries, and salad to keep it all balanced.
This sounds great.
Right?
What a good vacation. Good job.
Like, that's the best. And that's a room with some of my favorite things. Sarah Blakely, the Believe It book, wine, French fries, and shit. He was Caesar salads that she had. I'm just like, oh my gosh, brilliant.
Well, she got the salad in. I mean, those points. Those points.
Yeah, she's like her husband will approve of one of those things.
If I eat something terrible like pizza or something, I'll like go to the pantry and eat like all these chlorella and spirulina tablets that we have. Like, I'm like, well, so I'll eat like a pile of them, just like a bunch of greens. I'll swallow after. I'm like, I'm good.
You're good. You're good. Yeah.
That's great. Everyone loves you. If you don't know what Jamie's talking about, she's talking about her book, Believe It. It is so good. Please pick it up. It is going to be a huge bestseller because A, everyone loves Jamie and believes in her. B, the value in this book of vulnerability, of sharing this difficult journey of how do you believe in yourself, start something that's your own, build it up, endure the constant no's and haters and criticism and frankly demeaning people that can be in the world, to follow your passion and build something that's real. And you have to do that. You have to believe it. So she did it as a play on words because her company was called It Cosmetics. Yeah. And so believe it as in It Cosmetics, but believe it, also believe it. Believe is possible for you.
Yeah. Because a lot of people, we talk about dreaming big today. And I feel like a lot of people have these reasons they think they're not quite ready to dream big yet. And maybe they think they don't have the right support around them, or they don't have the right setup on their computer, or they don't have the right team they've hired, or they don't, all these things. And I think part of you showing and me showing, hopefully both of us, all the real stuff, it's like, oh, you don't always need to have all that stuff together to start or to dream big and to start having that vision. That's a big vision for where you're going while enjoying the moment.
People, I love that. Big vision for where you're going while enjoying the moment, and knowing that 100% of success stories you have ever heard, that success story began with somebody going 90 miles an hour and putting the wheels on as they were going and building the thing. They endured years of mess and disorganization and trying to figure out and doubt and risk of failure on the precipice daily. And you don't get that easy path when you want to do great things. Yeah. It's difficult. Les Brown always said, I love Les Brown. Les has been on our stages. Les is a personal development legend. I hope you know who he is. Les Brown always said, he's like, if you want your life to be easy, do hard things. If you want your life to be hard, do easy things. And it just says, it's like, oh, you have to push. You have to struggle. Here's what I want everyone to know. Thinking big today. This is my message to you. And thinking big. You are clueless to the depths of your capabilities. You have no idea what you are capable of. You have no idea what your full potential is. And I'm not judgment. I don't know either. Like, there's one guy up there. For me, I'm a spiritual person, so God's got me. God knows the immensity of the soul he put into this body, and no one else does, including me. I have no idea the immensity of the challenges God's got lined up for me 5 years from now, or 10 or 3 or 4 minutes. Like, you don't know. But what you do know is you're going to arrive and you will be summoned to call your best forth to serve one day. You will be summoned to rise above your own little insecurities and comforts and joys and ask, wow, how can I get more out of myself to be of service in this moment? Whether that is your first 2 years with a new baby, and you're like, my eyes, I haven't slept, you know? Or it's that first 4 years of your startup, it's going to demand so much of you, but you will rise to it. You will be capable. You will learn as you go. So stop all the waiting, get in the game, put the wheels on as you're going, move towards that dream with more rapidness, because you'll figure it out as you go. It won't be perfect. Jamie said, you're so vulnerable. Yet the other day you said to me, I feel like never in my life, Brendan, have I dropped more balls. I think you were saying.
And right now.
Yeah, tell them about that, because you're thinking big, but she's built $1 billion business. And right now, even after having that experience, she feels like this is life, y'all. Anyway, tell them about that.
I think, when I think back to the early days of building at Cosmetics, there were years of I didn't know what I didn't know, right? And I was trying to do every job in my living room because I couldn't afford to hire anybody. And I think anytime we're also doing something new or dreaming big and trying to go to new levels, just the newness of all of it is overwhelming, right? Because we don't know what we don't know. And so, at the end of a 10-year journey with that, building over 1,000 employees and $1 billion company and all that, I knew a lot about the beauty industry and about manufacturing and legal and acquisitions and building a team and leadership and all those things, right? And now, as a first-time author, I actually
a whole new game.
A whole new game. I feel literally I'm back in my living room, not knowing what I don't know, right? And it's a major season of growth for me. And you and I, Brendan, talk a lot about just the idea of being a lifelong student. And I'm proud to be a lifetime student. And I'm honored to learn from everyone in our community right now who's posting in the comments and posting in Facebook and posting in Instagram. I'm part of the Growth Day Morning Show. We learn from each other. I learned from all the other Growth Day coaches. And I'm in a season right now of going, okay, because for the last 5 years, I've been offered book deals because of my story, but I didn't want to have a ghostwriter do it. So I said no for 5 years. I wanted, because I have learned in my life, like, you cannot fake authenticity. And, one of the things I talk about in the book a lot actually is how, authenticity alone doesn't guarantee success, but inauthenticity guarantees failure. And that's in everything, right? And I talk about all the lessons I've learned around that in the book. But then for me to have that book actually truly serve at the highest possible level, I wanted to write every word myself. I knew it had to be authentic. So this has been 2 years, actually, a year and a half, little over a year and a half of growth and of dropping so many balls and
learning new things, messing it up, trying to get into it.
Yeah, like you saw me when I got the first cover in. I was cutting it out and taping it to Jay Shetty's book because it was the right size. Every little thing I'm like trying to figure it out, and because I want it to be authentic and I want it to be right and I want to have no regrets. But yeah, I am dropping balls everywhere in terms of, last night I was up all night writing web copy, writing because I want it to be authentic to like the heart and soul of how I want to serve. And I'm doing a big launch event, which we'll talk about later. Because it's still top secret, but we're going to tell everyone on Growth Day first. But
she's doing it big. She's going for it. Listen, she decided to write a book. And I want everyone, I know some of you are thinking about writing a book or launching something new. When she said, I'm going to write a book, she said, I want it to be a bestseller. I want it to really impact millions of people. I want it to be a New York Times bestseller. I want to really get it out there. Even though, please listen, she'd never written a book, had no idea how to write a book, and had zero idea how to promote something.
Yeah.
Her confidence in thinking big came from her belief in her ability to figure things out. She's like, I'll figure it out. So your big vision should not be limited by today's skill set or today's competency. Your big vision should be based on your service you want to give, your dream you want to live with your family. And you will develop the skills along the way as you get in motion towards the thing. You don't start the journey perfect. The definition of perfection is to perfect. To perfect requires that you start. You start something, release something, launch something, and you perfect as you go. Perfect is a verb. It is done to something that is out there, that is released, that is built to perfect. And so you don't start perfect, you perfect. And then as soon as you go, oh, okay, we're going to start this Growth Day morning show. We don't know how to plug it into Instagram or Facebook. We don't know how to use an outwork mic, these mics. We don't know what the heck we're doing. Our first 4 days, we were just perfecting how to do that little piece. We still are. I think that's so important. And Jamie, I want to give you credit, because sometimes you feel like you're dropping so many balls because you're so good at what you're doing in every other area, but you're also doing awesome and you're getting great momentum, and I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Yeah. And I'm just trying to be brave, and I'm trying to, and this, this is something that I think is huge too, is we often talk about when, I have a whole journey of hearing no for years, right? Experts telling me my vision wasn't going to work for cosmetics and all those kind of things. But I still believe that it's our own self-doubt that kills more dreams than almost anything else. It's our own kind of limitations that we put on ourselves, or our own reasons we give ourselves why we need to still wait to do something, or we're not quite ready to write the book, or any of those things, right? And I get why, because doing it all and putting ourselves out there is scary. And sometimes it's easier to not dream big, because then we don't have to be afraid of not hitting that mark, or we stay in our comfort zone, right? But I think that to recap what you said in the start of this, which is so good, it's so good, is until we take those chains off we put on ourselves, we don't know how much we're capable of. We don't know the level we're capable of dreaming and serving and giving and creating and ideating and inspiring, right? And leading and all of those things. And I think that, and
the level of discipline you're all capable of. The level of, so Jamie is in what we call a launch window. So for those who are new, Jamie is launching a book called Believe It, and it comes out next month. I hope that you will pre-order on Amazon. It's called Believe It by Kern Lima. Comes out next month. She's in this time we call a launch window. A launch window is when your life becomes very deep work, essentialism, high performance habits. You are doing this thing. A lot of balls are falling all over there because you have this limited amount of time to launch this thing. And until you've been through that several times, you don't know how much you can get done. I'll give you an example of thinking big. This month, if you told me, okay, Brendan, in 1 month, listen to y'all, in 1 month, rebranded the company, onboarded 20 plus people and teams from outsourcing and internal all around, launched a new offering, brought in all our new growth coaches, in other words, found 8 other new promotional partners and friends to serve, built a new software team, building the software, serving all of our customers without missing too many beats, launching a new community platform, launching this show, and somehow enjoying the month. If you told Brendan, 19-year-old Brendan, that was, he'd be like, I don't know how to hire. I don't know what a brand is. I don't know what a company is. What is it? If you told your former self that, or your future self, I should say, you don't know what you're capable of. And I'm not saying that to be like, oh, look at me, because feel like I'm putting the wheels on as I'm going. But I said, okay, let's just get in motion. We're going to figure it out. We're going to go. It's crunch time. Let's go. Let's move things forward. Move things forward. You will perfect as you go. But no way could I imagine that we could do all of this in a single month until you go for it, guys. You got to go for your dreams. Thinking big means moving big, taking big action, taking daily, you might call it small actions, but those daily small actions compound. You got to get in the game. Some of you, it's so easy to sit it out and you're still waiting for someone's approval or someone's understanding. It's like, if you feel like no one understands you, you have no one to blame but you. We have to learn. And I don't say that judgmentally, I had to learn to communicate. I sucked at communicating. I felt like I didn't have connection with people because I didn't know how to communicate. Be vulnerable, share emotions, create human, good friendships. I didn't know how to do that. So I did a lot of you personal growth lovers who read How to Win Friends and Influence People from Dale Carnegie. Anyone read that? Oh my God,
I,
changed my
I,
life.
yeah, I need to reread it. I read it like 20 years ago.
So good.
Yeah,
Such a
yeah,
classic.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And
So
I did
good.
that because I was terrible with people. And so now I communicate to millions of people daily. So if you told that really awkward dude, oh, you're going to talk to millions of people, you didn't believe it. But as you jump into the dream and you get momentum, you start to believe it more. You get more
Yeah.
skills, more capabilities. Those capabilities lead to competency. That competency leads to confidence, and you're moving. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm
And
all
not
fired
only
up
do you
today.
talk to millions of people, you train other incredible teams. I know I always bring up Oprah's team on the show, who I know you've trained, but you train so many people how to do it also. So it's like not only do you do it now, you also are like one of the top people in the world at helping some of the top people in the world do it themselves. So it's pretty remarkable. And one
Thank
thing
you.
I want to share, because I'm reading the comments, a lot of people saying, oh, it's hard to unchain ourselves. It's hard to start. It's hard to start when we don't know if our idea is good enough, or we don't know if our dream is right, and all that kind of thing. And one thing you just said that I just want to call out, because I think it's really important, is that sometimes people do cheer for you after you've made it. And I want to call this out, okay?
Yes,
Because
so true.
I've lived through this. I have lived through this, okay? I have so many stories, and that's why it's so. Everyone writing a book, it's like it is the greatest joy to go, oh my gosh, if people knew I went through all this, they would feel less alone. They would feel like they can get through it too, because this is the real stuff that happens. But there were so many people that did not cheer for me until after after my company was a success, or after
Yes,
we were
so
splashed in
true.
all the magazines, or after. And often when they start cheering for you, then it's in the form of, I always knew that you'd make it, or I'm so proud of you, I've been rooting for you from the beginning. You're like, no, you were. But it's okay, right? I think it's
Right.
or they're like, they're telling people how they know you, and it's wild to watch this. And it's not that they mean harm. Here's what when I've peeled back the layers on this, there's a couple lessons here I want to share with anyone, especially if they're scared to start, if they're scared to take that jump, if they're scared to dream big and call their shot and go for it and all of that. Because what we start to do, I think, as humans, is we share our dreams or our ideas with the people around us. Sometimes we share them in groups. And then sometimes we share them with experts, or with, people in our industry that have had a lot of success or whatever. And then when we don't get the kind of response we're hoping for, right? Then we start to doubt ourselves, and we start to think we're not ready, or we think, oh, you know what? A million other people have done this idea. Like, maybe I shouldn't do it. It's already been done so many other times.
Mm.
So here's the big thing I've learned, okay? Is, first of all, as we know, the only way to ever have a human connection is to show up authentically, right? And that can be with your partner, with a friend, with your customers online, with what you're doing, right? With how you're launching your dream. So just to take a step back, if you are doing something authentically, right? Your dream. So in my case, there's a million beauty companies out there, and I
Mm.
launched a beauty company. Well, there's millions of them. Someone had already done it. Millions of people had already done it, right? But when you do something authentically, no one can do it the way you're doing it, right? So by definition, what you're doing is novel. By definition, it's never been done before. And here's what I've learned. Other people, typically, even experts, even visionaries, they typically can't imagine something being successful unless subconsciously they've already seen proof that it's already been done and it's already been successful.
Yes.
But because you're doing it authentically to you, it's never been done before. So don't be surprised when the people around you who love you, or the experts you have so much respect for, don't initially give you the reaction to your big dream or your big idea. It's because no one's done it the way you're going to do it. So it's never been done before. It's novel, it's new, right? And most people would never admit this, but unless subconsciously they've seen it that way and they've seen it succeed, they're not going to believe that it will. So
Yeah.
my whole point
Except people who have done it themselves. And
themselves.
like
Yeah.
you and I believe in
Yeah.
people. We believe in you guys so much because when you meet people who came from nothing and they built it and they did it, they're the ones who usually are on board. Like, sounds like, go for it. Don't know if it's going to work, but cheer them on, encourage it. Like, people who've
Yes,
actually
because
done
we've
it are the
gone
most
through it.
encouraging. Yes.
Yeah, and we've gone through the journey of hearing thousands of people not believe in us. And then
Yes.
and when you come out of the other side of that, you're like, huh, and you have a whole new perspective, right? But the truth is, I mean, in my own journey, for example, as it pertains to building the company, I also learned years later, the hard way, after crying myself to sleep a lot of nights, after hearing a lot of no's, I learned, oh, wait, most of the beauty retailers, they're amazing and they're great. And they all said no to me for years, but they've also never actually built anything themselves. Right.
Yes.
Right. And it's like, oh, and to your point, that's why I'm so passionate about Growth Day and supporting it however I can, but also this morning show, right? Because it's like when you surround yourself with people that are in that space that share these kind of stories, then you're like, oh, okay, I get it that like Aunt Margie said that she didn't think this was going to be a success, but that's okay. She loves me anyway, and she's never built something like this, so she's seeing it through the best lens she knows how. But I'm
Yeah.
not going to let that penetrate me, or me calling my shot, me going for my dream, me dreaming big, right?
Love
So I
that.
want
I
to
love
share that to
that.
you this morning. So you guys, I just want to share something. Anybody out there feeling like, oh, do I belong? And do I have will I be embraced by this industry I'm in? We all have the same thoughts. And this is going to be a bold statement.
Get them.
But
Get them.
what I realized, I could have never sold my company for over $1 billion had I not been on. Had I ever listened to all the feedback along the way from really well-intentioned experts and retailers about how to conform, about how my packaging needs to be, about how to fit in this beauty space, about what I need to change or alter or create to fit into what's going to sell. How did I ever listen to that when it didn't feel authentic to who I was? It never would have happened. And here's what I mean by that. And I just want to share this for anyone who needs this today, because this is so, so, so powerful. Because if you are doing something authentically to you, by definition, no one else out there can do it the way you do it, right? So by definition, it's novel. It's never been done before. And listen, I went to a beauty space. There's millions of beauty companies, but I stayed authentic and did it a different way. Was told I was odd. Was told your idea is not going to work. And you guys, I started in my living room, and it was 3 years of having this product that I believed in so strongly, that worked for me, but I didn't want to have crazy fancy expensive packaging, because I always felt like, as a consumer, for me, if I bought something that was so fancy, like it was really pretty, I would put it on my counter and I would look at it, but I wouldn't use it. I wanted people to I wanted people to not be afraid and to use it. And so I was told over and over by a lot of retailers, your packaging is not expensive or fancy enough. And then when I wanted to use real women and people as models, I was told women won't buy makeup unless there's such this aspirational thing of beauty that they can never look like. That's what will sell. And I'm like, that doesn't, like, just maybe women are sick and tired of seeing people who don't look like them modeling a product, because how are they going to know it works for them if they don't see somebody that has, anyways. So I would keep going in, and I kept getting told, right? You're not the right fit.
Well, you're bringing your values into your work, which is so key. You're bringing your values into work. You're like, I want to have, models for It Cosmetic who look like regular humans, not like the traditional, wave model. We wanted to have people who, were just joyous and happy, and not like, you really wanted, like, you had people with, I remember looking back at some of your stuff that you did, and it was like, oh, these people have regular human facial expressions. You ever open those magazines and you look at everyone's facial expressions, you're like, that's not even anyway. So
and it's so really Photoshopped, but I used to say to them, like, I'm creating a company that authentically believes every person is beautiful. So why wouldn't I show every person as the models, right? And it was this just constant pushback. And by the way, sometimes it's little things. I remember, I love some good sweats. Like I'm wearing sweats today. I love some good sweats, and I'll be fancy every once in a while. But in the start, for those of you that haven't heard the story, I sold the company I started in my living room to L'Oreal for over $1 billion, and it was 3 years of meetings with them. And the first time I ever walked into their office, I felt so odd, so out of place. Like everyone dresses so well, and and I was just like, okay, but here's the thing: I didn't change who I was, and I didn't start dressing like everyone at that company, and I didn't, right? And what happened? My whole point in all this, you guys, is by the time L'Oreal bought our company for $1.2 billion, this was after years of meetings, they have the most beautiful portfolio of like 40 companies, 40 different beauty brands. And none of them were doing what we're doing. Like they're all doing their own thing really beautifully, because I stuck to being odd and I didn't conform. Every time I thought, oh, well, if I do this, then that retailer will carry our products. Or if I change our packaging, then we'll be accepted. Like had I changed everything, they would have never bought our company, because we would have been doing what everyone else is doing. And instead, because we were odd, we brought value to their portfolio. We didn't compete with anyone else in their portfolio. We were odd. We brought a whole new value and a whole new customer base. And
let me give another word for this too, Jamie, because this is like, I really want to, because I want to transfer this from, odd or even authentic, which can be, kind of like, sometimes I know someone watching might think, oh, that's like pop self-help, here they are just being positive about this. Let me share like some hard truth what that means. Being odd means you bring what is important to you into your day every day. You bring what is important to you into your work. Because what is important to you, that's your values, that's your inclination, that's your vision, that's your unique spirit or voice or inner speaking to, I want to do this, and I want to do it in this unique way that's my way. And when you honor that and you show up and you do that over and over and over, your quote unquote brand, whether that, or who you are, or how you live as a mom, as a team, as a leader, what happens and what manifests is this unique identity that's truly you, because you are living the things that are important to you and you're bringing what's important to you into every day. And so for those of you who aren't on this track to build $1 billion company, or you're like, oh, I'm not like Brandon, I don't do that stuff, on the internets. Here's what I'm saying. Bring what is important to you into the world every day. And that oddness, that uniqueness, that will manifest itself into what you feel is living a life of personal freedom, doing what is important to you and beautiful to you. And that's where you find fulfillment. Because I always say, fake does not equal fulfillment. Mm-hmm. You can't fake it into fulfillment. You can fake it and get things done. You can fake it and stand out for a minute. Mm-hmm. But over the long term, you'll be miserable because you didn't bring what's important and true to you into your life. Yeah. And so what Jamie had her ultimate success, just knowing her now as a friend and doing this Growth Day morning show together. And we have so much conversation together pretty much on the daily now. It's like she brought what is important to her into her space. She had rosacea. She said, I'm going to solve this rosacea thing. I need that's important to me. She solved her rosacea challenge by concocting cosmetics that are in her house. And that became literally $1 billion empire, y'all. So you just have to go, what's important to me? Let's work on that. Let's solve problems that are important to me. Let's express myself in ways that are true to me. And if you do that year over year over year over year, that's how you build something real.
Yeah. And I love that you use the word unique, because that's such a great word too, right? Versus odd. I'm like, we were odd, but unique. The things you
I'm from Montana. I say weird. I'm weird, right?
You're weird. But and my big thing is, yes, live those. Like you said, yes, bring them into what you're doing, but also don't be scared of them when someone else doesn't get it. Like don't change your uniqueness or your weirdness or your oddities when they're true to you and to your values, just because someone else doesn't get it. You know what I mean? And I think that's the most important thing, even though, like, I'll probably talk about this for another 100 years, but rejection sucks and rejection is painful. And it never got, it maybe got a little easier because I've gone through hearing no probably thousands of times in the journey, but it's never fun. But had I ever listened to that you're not enough feedback when it was something that was an authentic, unique oddity of a value I believed in, had I ever changed that, we would have never, ever had the outcome that we did. And it was just such a real life, full circle, good learning that, oh, wow, it was our oddities, our uniqueness, our all of that about our company that we stayed true to that ended up, really building something of value.
Ladies and gentlemen, rock this house and welcome to the stage, Jamie Kern Lima!
Baby Kern Lima!
Every single one of us has had someone tell us we're not enough. Every single one of us has had someone say words to us that hurt.